My wife got up and spoke in church. We've been part of church families our whole lives, but never attended regularly. After her midlife crisis, an affair going back to church became more of a regular thing. My wife would never speak publicly, and especially not in church. She's a private person and doesn't want public attention ever. One of the topics of the sermon was infidelity in the modern world. Talk about instant tension in our pew. I felt the wind suck right out of my lungs when the pastor started talking about it. He didn't know our story. Nobody there did. We purposely picked a church where we didn't know anyone because we wanted a fresh start without judgment from some of the holier-than-thou members. You know the type. My wife is well respected at church. She participates in a lot of activities, gives advice, has taught Sunday school on a moment's notice. She really has tried to become the person she wants to be, but in the past failed to be. Personally, church wasn't really my thing, but at the point where we were, I figured, what the hell. If anything can help, I'll give it a try. The pastor talked about how sin and infidelity can find their way into anyone's lives. He then talked about his own infidelity when he was a younger man. He cried at how he failed his wife. She was there, still married to him, and cried also. Half the church was crying. He said it was the worst thing he had ever done in his life, and the burden of the pain he caused his wife that he'll carry the rest of his life is a small price to pay for her grace and forgiveness. What I liked is that he didn't use the tired line about God forgiving him so all is well, like the former mayor of Nashville recently did. He didn't even mention God's forgiveness at first, only his wife's forgiveness. That is what mattered to him most. He eventually praised God for giving him the strength to be a better man, and all that jazz. Anyway, he asked if anyone wanted to add anything to the conversation, and I about have a heart attack, because there goes my own wife standing up. My wife. You've got to be kidding. She would never talk publicly in a situation like this. I'm sitting there literally in shock. I look around and every eye is on her. Some are on me because I think they assumed I must have cheated on her. She starts talking, introducing herself, and our family to those that might not know us. Our kids are sitting there right next to me. She then unloads everything. I mean everything. How she wasn't happy with herself, but mistakenly blamed external parts of her life for this sadness. Her job, her marriage, etc. She blamed everything but herself. She talked about how she always hated cheaters and couldn't believe anyone would do something like that. I'm sitting there still in shock, like I'm not really there, and instead watching this all on a movie screen. I don't know if I even breathed the whole time she was talking. I was blown away. She told how she got where she did. The self-doubt, the anger and resentment over not following some of her dreams from when she was young and instead getting married, having kids, and settling down. She unloaded it all. She pointed at me and said, "This is my husband. Some of you already know him. All he ever did was love me and support me, and I betrayed him in the worst way imaginable. I caused him more pain and suffering than I'll ever know. I don't deserve his grace or forgiveness, and yet here he sits by my side, holding my hand, still being my husband." She went on to say that she knows the pastor's burden, that she accepts as part of her own penance carrying a burden of knowing how badly she hurt me and her family, but is glad that it's there to remind her how badly she screwed up. By the time she was done talking, she was crying. I was crying, half the church was crying. It was really something. That's all I can think to say about it. I can't believe she got up in front of hundreds of people and confessed that sin, and told them all she did. She had it made there. Nobody knew. She didn't have to do that. That was a sacrifice on her part. For us, that has really shaken me to the core. We hugged when she Saturday backed down, and I think it was the first real hug where I felt something for her in over 2 years. It melted that iron shield I put around my heart after D-Day. I couldn't let anyone hurt me like that again, so I froze my heart out to anyone. Everyone except my kids. Her getting up and telling that story in front of everyone is a game changer. It affected me more than anything else we've done in the last 2+ years. That one act has made more progress for us than the 100+ marriage counseling sessions. We've talked so much since Sunday. She said that the pastor inspired her, and she knew she needed to do at least one brave thing in her life. As I would expect, she has already gotten the cold shoulder from some friends from the church. Others, however, some people we didn't even know, have approached us, called us, emailed us, etc. to wish us well and said how inspiring my wife's message was. We're not really devout people, and this whole thing didn't really feel like our religion was the big part of it. Like the pastor's wife, I saw that my forgiveness was more important to my wife than even God's. I know now, for the first time since it happened, that we're going to make it. I still can't believe she did that. I guess to sum it up, it was a good weekend. Hey guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help me out. Thanks. Such a sad story with such a happy and uplifting ending. Congratulations to you and your wife for surviving the tough times together. That was brave of your wife. It's not easy to get up and admit transgressions in front of your church like that. It sounds like she and your pastor have both taken responsibility for their actions and work hard to be the people they really want to be, and that's admirable. That was brave of your wife it was, and made a huge difference with me. It's like she threw herself on a grenade to help me heal, and it has deleted all the resentment and bitterness I've been harboring for over 2 years. If you read my post history, you can see how angry I still was. Her secret was intact. She didn't have to do that, but she did. Not only was she terrified of public speaking, but to admit what she did in front of all those people. I can't imagine how hard that was for her to do. It proved to me that she's really in this, and that reconciliation is real and possible. My 28 female boyfriend, 28 male, of 12 years just decided he doesn't want to get married. I have been with Lee since we were 16. I love him so much. We have so much in common. We have lived together for 4 years and have had a blast. We have our normal problems, like all couples. 2 years ago we began discussing marriage, and we even set out a timeline. I was so excited. He wanted to get another promotion, which he did a few months ago. So I brought up the possibility of becoming engaged sometime this year, and on Sunday, he dropped this bomb on me. We were at his mother's for Memorial Day weekend. We were sitting on the patio by ourselves when I asked him about it, since his parents had just finished praising him for his promotion. When he looked at me and said, "I don't know if I really even want to get married." I asked him what he meant and why he felt that way. He said, "Why do we have to get married? What would the point be? We are fine where we are." I told him I wanted his name and that being married would be more intimate. H only said, "I don't want to talk about this right now." We drove home yesterday. It was awkwardly silent, and I just looked out the window the entire time. I was really confused and conflicted. He always used to tell me he wanted to marry me and would be proud to call me his wife. We have been together for 12 years, and now I'm thinking it was all in vain because he didn't want me to be his wife anymore. So I asked him last night about it as we got ready for bed, and he snapped at me saying, "I don't want to get married. Is that a big deal?" Jesus Christ, why the duck are you so bent on getting married? At this point I was crying and reminding him we discussed it. He then threw the pillow and a quilt on the floor and screamed, "I'm sleeping on the floor. I don't want to hear any more about the stupid marriage idea. Plenty of couples function fine without ever getting married." I cried myself to sleep, and he really slept on the floor. When I woke up this morning, he was on the bed, near me, but not touching me. But he got up and got ready for work. "I'm off today." We didn't really talk. I have been parked on the sofa all morning sobbing. I called my best friend and had a good cry, and I turned down Lee's offer to get lunch together. I have been with him for 12 years and now he's changing his mind. I feel like I've wasted my entire life with somebody I saw a happy marriage with when he clearly lied and changed his mind. My heart is beyond broken. I don't know what to do. Too long didn't read, been with boyfriend for 12 years, discussed marriage, and now he is changing his mind and doesn't want to get married. Update, my 28 female boyfriend, 28 male, of 12 years decided he doesn't want to get married. Thank you guys for all of the advice. I took it all to heart. So yesterday, I was watching TV in our room and just online shopping. He was out in the living room on the phone. I'm not sure he was talking to. But Lee and I hadn't really been speaking much since he blew up on me and slept on the floor. He came into the room a little while later and told me we needed to talk. So he Saturday down and took in a deep breath and began saying how he knew how important it was to me that I got married. But he told me he was not the person to marry. My heart plummeted at this, and I kept reassuring him that I loved him and wanted to be with him. He told me he couldn't be with me anymore. I asked him why. We had been together for so long. Why now? He then told there was somebody else. I was shocked. I felt really sick. I asked him what he was talking about. He said she was a coworker. I began crying at this point. I couldn't hold it in. I asked him how long. He said half a year or so. I asked him to leave for the night. He packed a bag while I Saturday on the bed and cried. He kissed my forehead and then he left. I turned the TV back on and surfed the internet, and I tried really hard to make myself feel better. I felt like throwing up. So I got on Facebook and went to Lee's account, but there were no signs of any coworker that was a girl. I got on his iPad that he left and skimmed through his messages, but nothing was there. I saw a tab that said archived. So I opened it, and I guess it was deleted or hidden messages. I saw a girl's name at the top, so I clicked it, and the first thing that pops up is a picture of her bare watermelons, and a message from him underneath saying, "Those are the best watermelons I've ever seen. I want to come on them, baby." Now I was even more sick, but I continued to scroll up. There were over 10 nude photos of her. No pictures on Lee parts, but there were graphic messages, lots of messages about romance and bondage obsession. So I went to her account but realized her and Lee were not friends, but her privacy settings were low. So I went through her profile pictures, She was really pretty, blonde hair, and blue eyes, like me. She was younger than us, about 22 or 23, but she was a successful girl working in Lee's department at work. I went to her personal information and saw she was listed as in a relationship with some other guy. They had been in a relationship for the past 3 years. Now I was entirely shocked. I deactivated his Facebook account and installed the app on his iPad so I wouldn't continue to open Pandora's box and make myself upset. I made myself some food and thought about my next step. We were over, I was sure of that. After I finished eating, I began packing all of his poop up in boxes from our last move. I was getting more and more furious as I packed. In the middle of my tyrannical movement of packing his stuff up, I took the picture of him and I at a high-class restaurant for our anniversary and broke the glass. I dumped the broken glass into the box and then dropped the picture in. It was getting late, but Lee was suddenly calling my phone. I answered, and he was crying and telling me he made a major mistake. He kept saying he was sorry and that he wanted me back. I told him no. I told him he could go duck that other girl instead. I told him to tie her to the bed and do his stupid bondage obsession on her. I told him I didn't want him back and thanked him for being decent enough to not let me marry him cause he's a loser. He tried bringing up the good times we shared in the past 12 years, but I told him to duck off and I hung up. Now I was even more worked up. So I just stuffed his clothes in, not even bothering to properly fold his button-ups and nice tuxedo clothes. I taped the boxes up and wrote cheating noodle face on the side and shoved all the boxes onto the front porch. We live on the second floor, and for a moment, I thought about kicking the boxes down the stairs. But I didn't. I called Lee and told him his shit's on the porch if he wanted it, and lied and told him I changed the lock so he wouldn't try to come in. He begged for another chance, and I told him if he didn't cut that out, I'd throw his poop down the stairs. He came by, but he tried the door with his key and came in and said that he thought I changed the locks. I told him to get out. I began backing him out of the door and waving his iPad at him and told him I knew everything. He went out onto the porch and asked for me to listen to him and that he didn't want to be a cheater anymore. I told him that ship sailed and that he was now a cheater and I wasn't taking him back. He asked if I saw the messages. I told him I had. He tried to pin it all on his friends, saying they started the messages and they got out of hand as a joke. I told him I wasn't a complete ducking moron. He begged for me to take him back. I was so mad, I threw his iPad over the railing. He screamed it had his work project on it but it didn't survive the falling. He told me we could fix this. I told him to give me his key. I told him to get out here, that I didn't want him, and to leave before I got the cops involved. He left and put his boxes in the car and picked up his broken iPad. So I woke up this morning. I kind of missed him, but at the same time, I was thinking good riddance. I don't regret breaking his iPad or his heart. He's been texting a lot, but I haven't replied. I don't want to hear any more of his bullpoop. Somebody is coming to change the locks at noon. So yeah, that was a lot of drama. Too long didn't read boyfriend admitted to cheating on me. Kicked him out, found the messages, packed his poop up. He tried to lie with some bullpoop, broke his iPad. He left, it's over, no contact. I can't believe how quickly this changed from him sounding like he wanted to talk out the situation, to breaking up with you and admitting to cheating, to him wanting you back. What a freaking night. I'm proud you stood your ground and booted him out. You've been with this guy almost half your life. Things will feel weird without him for a while. Be close to friends and family. It felt good to sleep after that bullpoop. Thanks. I'll be sure to do just that. That you for updating. I'm sorry to hear about how it all went down, and I'm sorry he's a cheating noodle face. I'm happy you were strong. Keep being strong. Half a year of cheating wasn't a one-time slip-up but an intentional series of acts. He is no longer worth your time and energy. Have you thought about contacting that girl's boyfriend? I didn't think about it. Maybe I will get on Facebook and find him. He needs to know. You're right.